All right, Kuzli's here. We can get started as well. So, no other questions that people needed or wanted me to take up? Merciful asked for the last page word problem, so I will definitely do that. Are there any other uh, comments or questions that you want me to take up? Okay, guess not. All right, so let's get started with this. First page was all about graphing. Um, so with the graphing one here, once again, you should already know how to graph, which is to identify the slope if you have it, and the y-intercept if you have it, which we do. This allows us to graph our line fairly easily, right? And you can connect that with the straight line. So if I wanted to connect it with the straight line, it would look something like this, right? So that would be our line for the first one here. For the second one, it's x equals 3. And we already know from our special cases that this is a vertical line that goes through x equals 3. So just like that. Okay. The next one for C, that y equals -2, is just a horizontal line that goes to y equals -2. Just like that. So these three lines should look something like this, right? Your goal is to always identify the slope and y-intercept. So the first three were fairly simple. You have your two special cases, your vertical and horizontal line. And the first one, you needed to identify the slope and the y-intercept, right? Remembering that you plot the y-intercept first. So since we have y-intercept is 7, we plotted the 7 first up here, right? This is what was plotted first, and then we go down and draw our slope, -3, 4, and we get our second point there. Okay. These next three questions, a little more tricky, but doesn't change anything. Your process is still to solve for slope and y-intercept if you'd like, or the second option was to solve for your x and y intercepts, right? So the first one here I'm going to do by solving the slope and y-intercept, which means I'm going to rearrange this equation to get y equals mx plus b. So if we get y equals mx plus b here, I'm going to rewrite this and I'm going to get 5y is equal to 10 minus 2x, moving this to the other side. Okay, we move the 2x to the other side. We have 5y equals 10 minus 2x. Then we're able to divide everything by 5. And this is going to result in y is equal to 2 minus 2 over 5x, which can be rearranged to get -2 over 5x plus 2. Okay, just switching these two positions. So these two terms switch their positions. That gets us y equals mx plus b form, which can let us say the slope is -2 over 5 and the y-intercept is 2. Okay? So once we have that down, we can now graph it. We have our 2, and it's down to right 5. You can go the opposite way, and we get our graph. Like so. Okay? So there's our graph for the first one. So even though you have it in standard form, this is standard form here, you can always rearrange it to find the slope and y-intercept. Just be careful that you are doing your algebra correctly as you move terms to the other side. The second option was to say, screw it, I don't want to do that. I am instead going to solve for my x and y intercepts. So my x and y intercepts, for my x-intercept, we know that y equals 0, right? Which crosses out the minus 3y, right? That's gone because y is 0. So since y is 0 and that's gone, we're going to be left with x plus 6 equals 0, which gives me x minus 6, or x equals negative 6. So my x-intercept is negative 6, 0, right? For my y-intercept, we say x equals 0. And that crosses that out, right? That's gone. So that leaves us with negative 3y plus 6 equals 0. Gives us negative 3y equals negative 6. And solving the last step, which is to divide by negative 3, we're going to get y is equal to 2. So my, whoopsies. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 2. I mean 0, positive 2, sorry. Once we have those 2 points, now we can graph it. So negative 6, 0 is down here, 0, 2 is up here, and we can draw our line. And that's it. There's nothing more that you have to do to graph it. Should look a little like this. Okay. So there's our graph there. Are there any questions about these two methods, right? Whether you use slope y-intercept or you're solving for x and y-intercept, and the last case where you're like, I really don't remember these two methods, is always to draw a table of values. An XY table, you can plug in numbers in and then graph it if you'd like, right? This saves you some time though, and it's very accurate. Our last question here, C for this one here, the second C, y minus 5 equals 0. We should be able to rearrange this. We want y alone, so we get y equals 5. And immediately we can draw our line. We know we are smart people in Mr. Choi's class. We all know that's just going to be a horizontal line on y equals 5. Just like that. So there's our completed work here. I'll zoom out for everyone to see. Okay. Once again, double checking. Are there any final questions here? Sorry, that was my phone. Okay, no questions. Let's move on. Question 2 was finding the slope of each line going through these 2 points. Okay, so calculating the slope here. The reason why we're doing is because the questions on the test is going to be, hey, here's 2 points. Can you find the equation of the line, right? That's usually what we're working with here. And so if we're working with something like that, then you should be able to calculate the slope using the slope formula. The slope formula is m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? That's our main thing here. And so plugging it in, right, you should be able to plug in y2 as 8, y1 as negative 4, x2 as negative 5, and x1 as 3. Your final slope here should have been 12 over negative 8, which simplifies to negative 3 over 2. That's a negative. Let me redraw that. That's an ugly minus. Negative 3 over 2. So that's our slope there. For question B, plugging it into my formula, you should have gotten 3 minus 3 over negative 4 minus 5, which gives us 0 over negative 9, which is just 0. Right? Anything dividing 0, 0 divided by anything is 0. And the last one here would be, negative 10 minus 0 over negative 6 minus negative 6. And then that's going to give me negative 10 over 0. And we cannot divide by 0, so we say the slope is undefined. Okay, so these are your 3 answers for question 2. Any questions on number 2? Going once, going twice. Okay. Yes?
No, I said I don't.
Okay. Number 3, calculate the slope of each line segment. So you were asked to calculate the slope for this. Each one here, let's quickly go through these. For A, it should be 0. It's a flat horizontal line. For B, the slope should be undefined. I'll just write it down here, actually. Sorry. C is this line over here. Should be, slope is 1. You should have written 2 over 2, which simplifies to 1. Okay, so technically the thought process here, if you did rise over run correctly, you should have gotten this, which equals 1. For question D, you should have gotten the slope is equal to 3 over 2. For question E, you should have gotten the slope as negative 4 over 4, which is equal to negative 1. For F, you should have gotten negative 3 over 4. And the last one, G, you should have gotten slope is 2 over 4, which is equal to 1 over 2. Some of you may even have written 4 over 8, which is fine. As long as you simplify it all the way down to 1 over 2, that's what matters. Any questions on calculating the slope using rise over run?
I have a question.
Yes.
How you did the G?
So for G, there's a lot of points on the line. So you're looking for a lot of points. You'll notice like there's 5 different points you could have used. So for me, I personally saw this one first, which is 2 over 4, right? Now, you could have done differently. There's like, you could have definitely drawn other triangles like 1 over 2 here, right? Or you could have even drawn like all the way down here, which would be 8 and 4 for a rise over run, which you should still end up as the final slope being 1 over 2. This is what's the important part. Regardless of which triangle that you used, your slope should still be the same.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Next, question 4 says to determine the equation of the following lines. We'll take We'll call this one A. We'll do that one first. It's a vertical line, which you immediately know is x equals a number. And the number here is -2, so x equals -2. There's our answer. There's not much else to really go for here. We know that this line touches here, which is -2, right? So x equals -2 is the equation of the line. Very simple. For question B, we'll do this one here. This one here, we have the y-intercept here, right? That's the important part. And the y-intercept here, we get y-intercept is 3. So we have that information. And we also can figure out the slope here. If I try to draw a slope line here, we're going to get 5 and 2. So the slope here is 2 over 5. So my final equation should have been 2 over 5x plus 3. Any questions? The dotted line here, you write the y-intercept again, so the y-intercept is 4. And the slope we can figure out, so using the y-intercept, I can go down. The next point looks like it's right here. So going all the way down and across, that's -4 and +3. So the slope is -4 over 3. That equation becomes -4 over 3x plus 4. And the last one, let's use a different colored pen. Let's do light blue, because that's a very nice color. We have the horizontal line here, right, for D. So for D, the horizontal line here, we know that's y equals a number. And what's that number? That's right here. That's at -2. So y equals -2 is our equation. Okay. Any equations about these 4 lines? Or sorry, any equation. Any questions about these 4 lines? Clearly it's morning and I'm tired too. My words are not working. All right, looks like there's no questions. We're going to keep moving on. All right, number 5. So it says that you have a line with a slope of -4 over 5. Milana, I answered the question. I said 5 pages. Slope is -4 over 5. And it asks you to figure out the slope for a parallel line, a perpendicular line, and a line that is neither parallel or perpendicular. The slope here is -4 over 5. So if we separate this into 2 sections, we can say parallel. The slope for a parallel line is the same. So it should just be -4 over 5. For perpendicular, it is the negative reciprocal, which means you flip the fraction and then you smack a negative on it. But if there's already a negative, it becomes positive. So your final slope here should have been 5 over 4. And the final one here, which is neither, the slope could be anything you want, as long as it's not one of these two. So I could have said like 10,000, and you would have been right. Right? This could be any number. So just to be clear, this is any number that is not -4 over 5 or 5 over 4. As long as it avoids these two numbers, you would have gotten it right. Any questions on this? Question 5 was pretty easy, hopefully. Just understanding what does it mean for a slope, for a line to be parallel, and what does it mean for a line to be perpendicular. Okay. For number 6, this one I would like people to tell me which ones they want me to take up. Like in full answer. I can give the answer for each one. But I don't have all the space in the world here. So we need to work together to figure out which ones we're gonna do. So which ones would you like full solutions for? Could you type in the letter in the chat, please? So we have someone calling out J. Anyone else? Elia asks for E. Okay, D. Young asks for H. Kuzli, send the message to everyone so that everyone can see it as well. But yes, Kuzli sent H as well. So we'll definitely do H. I'll take one more. One more. Elia suggesting B. Is there anyone? Because Elia suggested 2 already. Does anyone else have a suggestion? Or else I'm going to take Elia's suggestion here. Okay, so we'll do B then. So the big thing here, vertical line and horizontal lines. B and D were the 2 suggestions. Those should have been your easiest ones. Okay, and this is why. If you know that it's a vertical line passing through something, vertical line is your biggest hint. You should already know that vertical lines have the equation x equals a number. And what's the number? Well, because we're talking about x, we just have to look at the x number. That's it. So it's x equals 5. There's nothing difficult about it, which means the horizontal line follows the same idea. Horizontal line is y equals a number. We know this, right? And since we're talking about y, we look at the y value, and that's -4. So it's y equals -4. That's B and D. So that was pretty quick. Okay, so when you remember, vertical lines are x equals a number. And what's that number? Look at the x value of the point. Horizontal lines are the same. If you're looking for the equation, it's y equals a number, and you look at the y value of the point. Should be very smooth. Whenever you're given vertical line and horizontal line, I am throwing marks in your face, and it's up to you to catch them. Okay? Make sure you know how to write the equation for vertical and horizontal lines. Those are the easiest ones. You don't even have to show your work. This is literally full marks, just like this. E is the next question. For E, okay, it says the x-intercept is 2 and the y-intercept is 4. That gives us 2 points. We rewrite these two as coordinates. We say the x-intercept is 2, 0, and the y-intercept is 0, 4. We have those 2 points. We can now solve for the slope. Right? So the slope formula here, I'll write it down again. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We have those slopes here. And we can solve it. y2, we can plug it in. whoops, sorry, 0 minus 4, or minus 2, sorry. Okay. If you wanted to figure out what this actually was, remember, if this is 0.1 and this is 0.2, we can figure out our x and y's for those points. And plugging it in and solving it, we get 4 over negative 2, which means the slope is negative 2. There's our first one there. For our y-intercept, before we solve for our y-intercept, we plug it into our formula. So we start with y equals mx plus b, right? That's our basic formula. We solve for the slope, we replace it with minus 2. Then we can sub in a point. So we can sub in, I don't know, 2, 0. Doesn't matter which point you pick. We sub in 2, 0, or actually, yeah, we'll sub in 2, 0 for now. So we'll sub in 2, 0, and we're going to get negative 2 times 2 plus b. Oh, and y should be 0. Okay. So that's going to give me 0 equals negative 4 plus b. So 4 is equal to b. That gives us our final equation here. Y is equal to negative 2x plus 4. However, if you noticed, the y-intercept is 0, negative 4. This tells you that b equals 4. Already, you can go straight into here. You didn't even have to do this sub work. Right? So if you're able to identify these little things, you can do shortcuts. If you don't identify it, you just solve it. There's nothing wrong with solving it. Okay. Moving on. Question E is complete. We're going to H and J. So H, line is parallel to y equals 5x minus 2, and same y-intercept as x plus y minus 6 equals 0. So I'm going to quickly snip this so that we have it as reference here. Where's my snipping tool? So we're going to snip this here. Keep that as reference as we scroll down and work over here. Put it on my second monitor so I can see it. Okay, so for a question, let's draw this line here so we know. So H. So the line is parallel to y equals 5x of 2. Oh. Parallel to this line, y equals 5x minus 2. Parallel means same slope, so that means the slope is 5. Done. So there's our slope. The first thing you should always try to find is slope. We can get the slope right away. Right? It's parallel to, so the slope is equal to 5. Then it says it has the same y-intercept as x plus y minus 6 equals 0. You can solve this in two ways. I'll do both ways here. You can either rearrange the equation into y equals mx plus b form. So that would give us y is equal to negative x plus 6. And so b is equal to 6. Or the y-intercept is equal to... that looks confusing. So I'll just say y-intercept is 6. So therefore, y-intercept is equal to 6. Okay? On the other hand, you can say for y-intercept, sub x equals 0, and that's going to give me 0 plus y minus 6 equals 0, which gives me y minus 6 equals 0, or y equals 6. So the point is 0, 6. Look at these two, it's exactly the same. Okay? So it doesn't matter which method that you are doing, you should still get your y-intercept is 6, which means b is equal to 6. Okay? Once we have that down, we can plug it into our formula, y equals mx plus b, and y is equal to 5x plus 6. Any questions on H? Okay, looks like there's no questions. And the last one here was J. So for J, I'm going to snip this as well. So perpendicular to 2x plus 10y equals 20, and same x-intercept as x plus y equals 5. Okay, so first, this one was a slightly longer question. So it says it's perpendicular to 2x plus 10y equals 20. Yes, I can zoom out afterwards. So the first step here is we need the slope, so we need to rearrange this to y equals mx plus b. So moving the 2x to the other side, I'm going to get negative 2x plus 20, and dividing it by 10 on everything, I will get y is equal to negative 1 over 10x plus 2. So here, the slope is equal to negative 1 over 10. Therefore, the perpendicular slope, which we indicate it like this, the slope perpendicular to that should just be positive 10. We flip the fraction, or 10 over 1, which is just 10. Flip the fraction and smack a negative. It already has one, so it becomes positive. So now we have our slope. Oh, sorry, not over 10. You're right. That should be over 5. Correct. Thank you for catching that. Sorry, negative 1 over 5. The slope should be 5, not 10. Okay. Good catch. Thank you. So the slope should be negative 1 over 5. Negative reciprocal of that should be positive 5. Once we have that down, right, we have the slope, we can now go to the next part. It says that it has the same x-intercept as x plus y equals 5. So same x-intercept as x plus y equals 5. So to solve for x-intercepts, we sub in y equals 0 into the equation. So that's going to give me x plus 0 equals 5, or x equals 5. Pretty quick. And so the x-intercept is 5, 0. This is important. This is what tells us that this point is on our line. Okay? This is really important. You should understand the reason why we're solving the x-intercept is because that's what's on our line. That's our point of intersection. So once we have that point is on our line, we can go to our final step, which I'll do in red, right? So once again, slope is equal to 5, and the point is 5, 0, right? So we can plug that in. So y equals 5x plus b is what we have so far. And we're going to sub in 5, 0. In doing so, we get 0 equals 5 times 5 plus b, which gives me 0 equals 25 plus b. So negative 25 equals b. So my final equation is y is equal to 5x minus 25. And there's our final answer there. So I'll zoom out a bit to show all of question J. Any questions on question J? Okay, so I'm going to zoom out now completely to show all of the answers for this page for questions B, D, E, H, and J. So these are once again all the answers for B, D, H, and J. Why does the negative 1 over 5 turn into m equals 5? It's because it says it's specifically perpendicular to it. So this is the slope of this line, right? Which is not what we want. We want the slope of our new line, which is perpendicular. So we have to flip the fraction and smack a negative on it. Yeah. All right. So since we have those down, we can now try to solve for I need to give you the answers for the other questions. Okay. So let's go through these questions here. So question A, I'll write the answers down in purple so that you can check your work since we didn't take these up completely. Sorry. I have hiccups. It's not great. Okay. So the slope going through this point here, the equation of the line you should have gotten is y is equal to negative 2 over 3x plus 2. That's for question A. Okay. For question C, you should have gotten here. Okay. Slope is negative 3 over 4, passes through 0.89. The only thing you had to figure out was the y-intercept. So you should have gotten y is equal to negative 3 over 4 x plus 15. Okay. If you ever have a question or you want me to explain a little further, just let me know in the chat. For question F, it says it has to be perpendicular to that line and passes through this point. So, of course, you have to first solve for the slope of the first line and then find the negative reciprocal of that. And so the slope of the first line you should have gotten is a positive 2 over 3, which means it should be negative 3 over 2 as your slope. The final equation you should have gotten for question F, I need to move this over to the side a little bit. So for question F, this one was a little bit tricky, but hopefully you got it. It should have been y is equal to negative 3 over 2x minus 11 over 2. So we were working with fractions for this one here. The next one here, it passes through 3, -4, and 3, 3, 7. This one here, the x values are the same, which means this is x equals 3. It's a vertical line. That one's very easy as well. This one's a little bit different. So for G, that was a very easy question. As long as you identified, hey, the x values are the same, that's a vertical line. Okay. The last one here for I, it passes through the origin, which is 0, 0, and it also passes through 4, 1. Okay. This should have given you y is equal to 1 over 4x. You should immediately tell that the origin, since it's 0, 0, that's the y-intercept. B equals 0. That tells you b equals 0. So you just needed the slope. And you should have gotten 1 over 4 for your slope. And there's our full solution to this page. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to zoom out fully, but it's going to be a little bit small. Once again, final call for questions. Yes, for question C. You got -15? It should be plus 15. Careful. It's positive 9 already on the left side, and moving -6 over should be positive 6. So it should be 6 plus 9 is 15. Right? It's 8 comma and positive 9. So it should, when you're plugging in 9 and 8, they should both be positive. You're right, -24 over 4 is -6. But if you move the -6 to the left side, the sign changes. So it should be positive 6 plus 9 equals positive 15. It shouldn't matter. If you switch B to the other side, why would your signs change? If you're just changing the positions of both sides, you shouldn't be changing the signs. Right? So if you're saying that you did, just to clarify for those that are confused while we're talking, Mercel is saying that he got to this point, right? If you're switching these two positions like this, where you're just reorganizing it, don't change any of the signs. None of the signs change if you do that. That's why I'm saying you gotta get a little comfortable with keeping the variable on the right side. It doesn't change anything, right? So good. All right. If there are no other questions, let's go towards solving linear systems graphically. So this one, you have to check your solution here. So solving it graphically literally just means graph two lines, find the point of intersection, right? So this one here, graph two lines, find the point of intersection. Graph two lines, find the point of intersection. That's the important part here. If you can graph, you should have no issues on solving this question here. So quickly, I'm going to show the y equals mx plus b form of both equations here. So you should have gotten y is equal to x minus 6 for this one. And for this one over here, you should have gotten y is equal to negative 3 over 2x minus 1. What this gives us is the slope is 1 and the b is negative 6. And for here, the slope is negative 3 over 2 and the b is negative 1. Plotting both of these, I'll do red and purple just so they're easily visible. We start off by graphing the first one. The y-intercept is negative 6, and the slope is 1 over 1. So we go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. If you got negative y equals negative x plus 6, remember, y has to be positive. Get rid of that negative. You should get the same equation I do. Always got to make sure y is positive. So you're almost there, Milana. You got it. So the next one for purple, we have the slope, the y-intercept is negative 1, and the slope is negative 3 over 2. So down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2, and we can go the opposite direction as well. In doing so, you find the point of intersection to be right here. What is the point of intersection? 2, comma, negative 4. Right? So you can write that out here. The point of intersection is 2, comma, negative 4. Okay? But you're not done. The question asks you to check your work. So when you are showing to check your work, you use this and sub in our point of intersection. You're checking left side, right side. Six doesn't change, so we're pretty much only solving the left side here. So we get 2 minus negative 4, which is 2 plus 4 is 6. 6. Left side equals right side. Done. There's our first check. Our second one here, we have 3x plus 2y equals negative 2. We're going to sub in 2, negative 4 again. Once again, left side, right side. Right side is negative 2. Left side is 3x plus 2y. And plug it in correctly. You should get 6 minus 8. Wait, did I do this wrong? Am I crazy? No, I don't think I did this wrong. Oh, sorry. I copied the equation wrong. Whoopsies. Sorry, one sec. Let's redo that. I was like, wait a second, something's not right here. Sorry, 3x plus 2y equals negative 2 is the correct equation. Sorry. So negative 2 here. We plug in our points. We get 6 minus 8, which is negative 2. So left side equals right side. And we're good. We've checked our work. So this is the full solution. I'm going to go through this one more time with an explanation. If you're copying, keep copying, and then as well as listen to my explanation. So once again, when you're asked to solve the linear system graphically, you are to change the equation to y equals mx plus b form, or solve for your x and y intercepts to graph your two lines. The whole point, graph the two lines. Number two, once you have graphed it, you should be able to identify the point of intersection. If I physically draw the line here, right? If I draw the line doing this, that's my first line. And if I draw another line doing that here with my purple, okay, just like that, we can clearly see the point of intersection where they cross is 2, negative 4. That's our answer. That's our solution. So the point of intersection is 2, comma, negative 4. Once we have that, I specifically asked you to check your solution. So you are to plug those 2 points into the original lines. You're plugging this into here. You're not using these. This is a huge no-no. You don't want to use your changed line. Does anyone have an idea why we don't use our rearranged one? Like Mr. Choi, it doesn't matter. Yes, but my suggestion is not to use it because if you messed up, right? Let's say you got y equals mx plus b, but it's wrong. If you plug your point of intersection back into the original equation, it should truly show you if you are right or wrong because you didn't touch it. That's what I gave you. Your teacher gave you these two equations. Those two equations are correct. Use those to check your work. Okay? That's important. That's the only reason why I suggest using the original equations. So once you have that plugged in and you solve it, you get left side equals right side for both of them, then you have shown me that you can check your solution. Any questions here? All right. We're going to continue on. We now have our word problems. Thankfully, you only have one word problem on the test. Miss Noah and I have agreed to just one word problem on the test. Okay. As for which word problem is it, I'm not going to tell you, but it's only one. The rest of it is literally just solving equation of the line, solving slope, all that kind of stuff. So number 8, the celebrations banquet hall uses the equation 125n minus 5c plus 6,250 equals 0 to determine the cost for a hall rental, where C represents the total cost in dollars and N depends on N, the number of people attending. Express the equation in slope y-intercept form, so C equals mn plus b. So let's start with that. We have our original equation here, so I'm going to copy that down here. 125n minus 5c plus 6,250. That equals 0. So once we have that, we can now move everything to the other side. That's not c. C is considered our y variable. So we should get minus 5c is equal to negative 125n minus 6,250. I could then divide everything by negative 5. And your final equation should be c is equal to, something in my eye, 25n plus 6,250 divided by 5. It's going to give me 1,250. Okay. So that's question A. Question B says identify the slope and the c-intercept, or the y-intercept here. The slope is 25. The y-intercept is 1,250. What do they mean? What do they mean? Well, we can plug in our simple text box here, and the slope represents is the cost per person attending. The y-intercept is the fixed cost of the banquet hall. All right, and there's our explanation there. So this is what I wanted to see for question B, explaining and what does that represent in terms of the question. You'd be surprised how many people, grade 9 and grade 10 students, tell me the slope is the rate of change, it's rise over run. I'm like, I don't care what, of course we know what that is. That's the definition of slope. When I ask you, what do they mean? What does it mean in terms of the question? That's the important part, right? It's very annoying as a teacher to see students write, "Oh, it's the rise over run," or "It's the rate of change." I'm like, yes, I get that. I'm glad you got that point, but you can't forget that when I'm asking you in terms of a word problem, you explain it in terms of the word problem. You need the context. You got to remember the context. Okay? So many of my grade 10s did it last year, and I was so frustrated. So I believe in you, grade 9s. All right? C. What is the rental cost of if 100 people attend prom? So once again, here you need to identify. It tells us that this is 100 people. This is n equals 100. It's not C because C represents cost. So then we can use our equation that we reorganized and we can plug it into n. So C equals 25 times 100 plus 1250. And that's going to give me 2,500 plus 1,250. So my final answer here is 3,750. We can therefore, statement to finish off, therefore it will cost $3,750 if 100 people attend prom. Hopefully you guys have a prom when you guys graduate, but that's in 3 years, so there it is. Any questions about this? I'll zoom out so that you can see everything. Any questions about this one? Okay, no questions. We're going to move on. We got to the last page here, question 9 and question 10. So question 9, Brianna wants to create 40 custom t-shirts for her 16th birthday. The company t-shirts just for you charges a fixed fee plus an additional fee for each t-shirt order. The company charges $184 for 10 t-shirts and $401.50 for 25 t-shirts. Determine the cost per t-shirt. What is this question asking for? Slope. It wants the slope. What are my 2 points here that were given? What's point 1? There's 2 points that have been given. Close. Other way around. 10, 184 and 25, 401.50. Remember, X is your independent. Your independent choice is the number of t-shirts. What matters is, what depends on that is the cost of the t-shirt. So you want it flipped. So it's 10, 184 and 25, 401.50. Okay. Then you can calculate the slope. If you plugged it in correctly, you should have gotten 401.50 minus 184 over 25 minus 10. Okay. Sorry, just doing the math here. So when you plug this into your calculator, so 401.50 minus 184 gives you 217.5 over 15. And simplifying this, you get 14.5. That's our slope. That's the cost per t-shirt. So that's dollars per t-shirt if you needed the units. Okay? The fixed fee, you need to find it. You have your equation, y equals 14.5x plus b. You can plug in a point. Sub 10, 184. I don't have space to solve it. I'm sorry. I should have made more space for you guys. The final equation, the fixed fee that you get, you should get b is equal to 39. So someone that's not Mercel, because Mercel's tried to answer the question. Can someone give me the equation of this line, please, using the slope and y-intercept? So Rowie wrote down the equation, and that looks absolutely correct. C is equal to 14.5n plus 39, and I'm thankful that Rowie used the variables that the question asked for. Very good. So C is equal to, that C is ugly. C is equal to 14.5n plus 39. So there we go. Okay, so that's our equation there. Very good. And then it says use the equation to calculate the cost of 40 t-shirts. This tells us that n equals 40. So we can plug it into our formula. Or for our equation, we replace n with 40 and we can solve it. So 14.5 times 40 gives me 580 plus 39. And so C is going to be equal to 619. So therefore, it will cost $619 to make 40 t-shirts. And there's our final answer for this question. Right? Like, as we go through this, some of you may realize, oh, I know how to do this. The only tricky part is setting it up. And yeah, it's the same thing, right? That's the whole point of a word problem. We're taking the concept that we know and we're just kind of wrapping it around like a Christmas present with a completely different situation. But the core gift, the center of the present is the same, right? You're still solving for an equation of the line. You're still solving for slope. You're still solving for y-intercept. Nothing changes, right? This is still a question you know how to solve. The only difficult part is, can you set it up correctly by using what you're given in the word problem, the sentence, okay? looks like there are no other questions in the chat, so we are going to continue onwards. If you're typing something, just let me know. Just type it. Last question. Swimming pool offers a $50 membership per year. With the membership, you pay $5 per use. Without the membership, you pay $7.50 per use. Create two equations based on to represent the cost and the number of uses. So another C and N. So here, the first one, if you buy the membership, so we can say, well, let's zoom in. And we can say for the membership, it's $50 a year and $5 per use, right? So if it's $5 per use, so with membership, we could say C is equal to 5x plus 50. Fixed cost is 50 and it's $5 per use. Without membership, it's going to be C is equal to 750x because they're not buying the membership. So there's our two equations. It says to graph it, so let's figure out our slope here first. Our slope is 5, our y-intercept is 50, and for here, our slope is 750, and our y-intercept is 0. This is really important here. Your scale must include 0 and must include 50. If it does not include 0 and does not include 50, you're in trouble. In other words, you cannot use a break because 0 is included. It is important that you keep 0. So graphing this equation here, let's go through our steps again, shall we? First step, label your axes. Number of uses goes on the bottom. The cost goes on the y-axis here in dollars. And our thing is cost versus number of uses. Very quick, it's y versus x. We have 3 marks already. Wow, amazing, fantastic, right? Then for our number of uses, we have 0. Let's do every 2 squares, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For our cost, well, we need to figure that out. So why don't we figure out our x and y tables here? If we're going to graph it using our equation, these equations, it's much easier to use our x and y intercepts. Oh, sorry, not x and y intercepts, the x and y values. So for the first equation, we're going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you pay 0, if you go 0 times, you still pay $50. If you go once, you pay 55. Twice, you pay 60. 3 times, 65. 4 times, 70. So I think we can figure out what the pattern is there. For our second equation, C is equal to 750x, drawing our xy table here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? For 0, it's 750. For 1, it's $15. For 2, it would be 20. Sorry, I can't do the math right now in my head, so I'm just going to add it. $22.50. For 3, it's 20. No. For 3, it's 30. $30 here. And then $37.50. And then we get $45 here. You'll notice we're not going to get to our point of intersection yet. Let's just try graphing it for now. So we can keep going here, but we want to make sure we include all of the y values for both graphs here. So if we're doing for both graphs, we need a scale that kind of matters. and fits both graphs, but we have to fit until 70. So this becomes a little bit tricky, doesn't it? Becomes a little bit tricky with what we're trying to do here. So you want to space it out as best as possible. My choice would probably be to actually go up by tens. That way we do hit the 50 and 60 and 70 mark perfectly, and we can kind of guesstimate these values here. So for my first graph, 0, 50, 155, 260, 365, 470, 575, so on and so forth. There's our first line. Our second line is a little more tricky. 0, 750 would be somewhere here. 115, that we know that exact value. 2250 would be somewhere here. 30 is right there. 3750 would be somewhere here. And then 45 would be right here. And we can kind of see that it's getting closer to that black line, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. So if we draw our lines here, oh my goodness. If we draw our lines here, we're going to get something that looks like this for our red line. For our black line, we're going to get something that looks like this. Just like that. So you can kind of see here what's happening with the two lines. They are definitely getting closer and closer together. But then question C asks us, when is it better to have a membership and when is it better without a membership? The issue here is we never really figured out when it's better to have with a membership. We still haven't calculated it. So what you can do, right, is try to figure out that point of intersection. You can extend your table of values to try to plug in the 2 points to try to figure out, this is where they meet. If you were to extend your values, you will actually find that your point of intersection is, let's see here, your point of intersection would be at 20 visits, which would be $150. I apologize. The fixed cost should not have been 50. It probably should have been like 25 to make your life a little bit easier. So that's my fault. But your point of intersection here should have been 20. So to explain this one here, right? We can extend here. So it is better to not have a membership if you go to the pool less than 20 times. If you go more than 20 times, it is better to get the membership. Okay? So there's our explanation here. And that's our final answer. Okay? So that's our final question of our review. Any final questions overall for this review package? Any questions you would like me to go over one more time?
No, sir.
Okay. So that being said, then you will be given a 10-minute break right now. You're going to be given a 10-minute break, and then after the break, we will begin our test. So please don't leave the Zoom. Make sure your cameras are working